Hello and welcome to the Franchise Tag Betting Show Week 10. I am your host, Andrew. I am joined, as always, by Adam, our betting expert, our betting guru, whatever you want to go by, top tips man, whichever title you want.
I mean, if I can find a winner, that would be lovely. But, aside from that, it's all going well. So.
The way it's going, I think we should swap it around and maybe you should host it. I should be the expert because, recently we have had 3 winners in the last 5 weeks on the FTAG5. So that's going really, really well. But before we get to that, there's been a game, as always. It's in the books. The Bengals and the Ravens put on another showcase again. Score ended 35-34. Both quarterbacks had great games. Joe Burrow played MVP level. Jamar Chase going off on one, but didn't come away with the victory. The Ravens managed to get it. I know we were split differently this morning when we were talking about on should they have gone for 2, should they have taken it to extra time. But how'd you feel about the game? How'd you feel about the Bengals?
Well, I mean, the Bengals are the Bengals, aren't they? This season, this seems to be what they are, and they just can't seem to get a win, whatever they do. I think when it comes to the Bengals, they are being punished for not investing in their defense. I think it's what we're starting to see. Yeah, so the likes of Jesse Bates being let go, some of these guys that made a real difference a couple of years ago when they made it to the Super Bowl, really struggling now defensively. And so that's a massive problem for them. And I mentioned this on the chat show on Tuesday night. I think that basically the Ravens are just getting away with it all the time. You've got the number 1 QB in fantasy, probably the number 1 running back in fantasy. Mark Andrews has been looking great these last few weeks and probably not far off certainly a top 5 tight end as well. And yeah, they're going to get punished eventually. At some point, they're going to get caught, and it'll probably be in the playoffs, and it'll probably be against the Chiefs. Is probably what will happen. They can't keep letting teams score so many points against them and expecting the likes of Lamar to get away with it. But he's managed to pull them out again and save them again, and that's basically what was the reason why they won that game. But that and a couple of nice friendly calls from the refs, but all the big teams get that, don't they? So that's how it.
I was thinking about this, and I was thinking about this with the college game. I was talking to Alex about it because obviously they've had a lot of bad calls in college. I mean, the refs are just not anywhere near the level of the guys in the NFL. So there's been some really, really bad calls. And obviously we had that game where one was overturned, which isn't a thing. There's no replays or anything like that in college. And I said to Alex, the way forward with this is to bring in a super challenge where you get 1 super challenge per game, where you can challenge a face mask or a pass interference or something like that. And maybe that needs to be introduced because that was clear and obvious penalties at the end of that game, and the implications meant for a loss for the Bengals. So maybe the super challenge is something to look at.
Yeah, it might not be the worst idea in the world. I think there needs to be something where, because obviously not everything is challenged. You can't challenge everything, and I think that does not necessarily need to change. But I think maybe, like you say, bring in some sort of thing where you have the ability to do that at one specific time. I mean, there was an obvious face mask. And I think there was also what I would say is a pretty obvious rough in the passer as well. Some of these rough in the passers are sort of, you sort of think, really? Are you giving it for that? And Burrow got hit so late on one of them and nothing was given for it. So, there was a few of that going on. But, I think the Ravens just continue. They carry on doing what they're doing, but they're going to get caught out eventually because they're just giving up too much. And the Bengals just are going to carry on struggling. I think it might end up costing Zach Taylor his job come the end of the season. That is a bit of a concern for him. And, horrific for anyone, obviously, who had to have Jamar Chase go up against them in fantasy, as I happen to know that not only did you have that happen to you in a redraft league, but also in a dynasty league as well. So,
yep,
never mind.
I think the redraft was worse because I faced you, and you've got Chase and Brown.
Chase.
So, double whammy on that one. You think you're at 88 points and you've only had 2 players play. So yeah, not great.
I think that's fair.
I'm still in the race. I'm still won 7 games already, so fingers crossed I can keep my place in the playoffs. We'll move on to our FTAG5 for this week. Now, there's been a lot of lines move quite dramatically across the week. There's not just one big one that's moved. There's been a few that have moved, as always. And we look at it I look at it on a Tuesday. I start looking on a Tuesday, try and build something together. Then on a Thursday, I'll see what's moved and where it's trending and have another bet. And that's when I'll lock it in and send it over to you and let you know what I've gone for. And then obviously there was the big move this morning in the odds. But first of all, we'll go with my first one, and that is the Atlanta Falcons. I don't think there's been any movement in that one. No, that one stayed the same for the whole of it. I've gone for the Atlanta Falcons at -3.5, going away at the Saints. Saints, as you guys spoke on Tuesday, really, really struggling to get anything going. Had that loss to the Panthers, which no one should be losing to the Panthers at all.
Oh, you say that now. You say that now, but your team are playing them this week. You can't. You're tempting fate now.
And they're 6.5 point favourites as well. So it could be embarrassing next week when we come on and you go, "What did you say?" But the Falcons, I've said it most weeks now. They seem to be a safe team to bet on at the moment. They've got that nice combination. I know Drake London's taken that knock, but Kyle Pitts, Bijan, Mooney will step up big time if there is any loss from London. So I think this is safe. The Saints I don't think there's going to be. People have said stay away from this one because it's new coach, it's Derek Carr back, it's that factor of they'll have a bit more about them. We have said that if a new quarterback comes in or a new coach comes in, the first week there is a higher level of play from that team, but I just can't see them beating the Falcons, of a team that are pushing for the playoffs. And the Saints, what are they playing for? They've lost Lattimore now, and Chris Olave's taken that big hit. He's going to still be in concussion protocol, so they're back to that loss at wide receiver, which we saw they did struggle when he was out before. So I think this is a safe one at 3.5. I know it's over the field goal, but I see this at 7-10 victory to the Falcons. So how do you feel about the first one?
Yeah, I like it. I think -3.5 is probably about right. It should be over the field goal, and I think, like you say, because Derek Carr is back, you kind of feel like the Saints will have a bit more of an offense compared to what they have done before. So that kind of means that's probably why it's only 3.5. That and the fact that it's at the Saints as well. So I can understand why it's sort of around that mark. Also, with the Falcons side, Drake, as you said, Drake London got injured. He's been limited in practice this week. There's a lot of talk that people think he's probably not going to play. It's a very 50-50 game time. Kyle Pitts has been limited in practice as well, so we're not 100% sure on him.
Kyle Pitts
as you say,
fully healthy, I think. It's been announced that Pitts is back fully healthy
today. Okay. Right, so he should be okay. But also, even if you take these guys out, you've still got the run game of Bijan and Tyler Algier as well, going up against the Saints defense at 25th against rushing yards this season. So I think that the Saints defense are very beatable. As you said, Marshawn Lattimore has gone as well, so it just makes them even more beatable. And the Falcons have looked like a pretty steady offense. Once you've got Kirk Cousins going, I think he's shown that he's been pretty good since he's been for this season. And the Falcons just better offense And also defense has not been fantastic, but also better defense compared to the Saints. So I think if you've got both areas on your side, and I know, like you say, that normally you might see a little bit of a bounce from a new head coach. I don't really feel like that's something that's going to happen here, because I think any bounce that could have happened probably got squashed pretty quickly when Lattimore got traded away. So I just kind of feel like there's not really a lot for the Saints to be going for other than the number one pick, to be brutally honest. Like that's kind of almost like, I know that's not how it works, but that's kind of how it feels a little bit at the moment. And I think the Falcons are a team who are, they're in the lead, aren't they, for the South? And although the Bucks have been playing okay because of all their injuries, they've been getting losses. I think they're going to want to maintain their momentum and keep going. And yeah, they just look like the better all-round team to me.
Yeah, the next game I've got is the Buffalo Bills, the one down from what we were just looking at. I've gone for the Bills at -4 away at the Colts. Colts made their change to Flacco. It didn't really work out for them. They struggled to move the ball down the field at all last week, whereas the Bills do seem to be cementing their domination of their division and look like they're going to be vying for the Super Bowl. I think we can put them in that conversation where that's where they're now looking. It's not qualify for the playoffs, get through a few rounds or whatever. I think they're now looking at going, yep, we can do it. We're good enough this year. I think Keon Coleman is limited. I know he's hurt his wrist. Not sure if he's out, but they are going to have Amari Cooper back this week, I believe. I do worry that whether James Cook, how much he's going to get going, but I just think, I know -4 is a horrible number. I've just not seen enough from the Colts with Flacco last week to say, again, yes, I think they can put away the Bills, because I think that, again, this is another game where I've got them winning by a touchdown or more. So I'm going to stick with the Bills for this one.
Yeah, I don't mind the number too much on this, because I feel fairly confident that the Bills are going to sort of, like you say, 7-10 kind of feels like a pretty obvious kind of take. I think I don't really see it as being anything else. I think we can safely say that the Bills' offense is much better than the Colts' offense, whether that be with Anthony Richardson or Joe Flacco as quarterback. And then defensively, the Colts have been a bit of a shambles for most of this season, and the Bills are although they're not the best, they're kind of middle of the road. So I think if you look at it in that way, it feels very much like this is an obvious one to go for. Maybe we're all falling into a trap. You never know. That's what happens sometimes, but it does feel that way. I'm pretty sure I saw that Keon Coleman is expected to miss this game, but as you say, Cooper's back. Shakir's been great.
Yeah.
Dalton Kincaid has been great the last couple of weeks as well. James Cook will probably get involved quite a bit because the Colts are very bad against the run. So I think that's probably the angle they're going to go down. I'd expect Ray Davis to get involved quite a bit as well this week. And yeah, I just feel like this is a Bills team that we were all questioning whether the window was still open for the Super Bowl, and I think they've probably done a lot better than what most people thought they would. And it feels like that then means that yes, it is still open. I think it's always going to be slightly open all the time. You've got Josh Allen, but I feel like some of the moves that they've made by bringing in the extra receiver, the defense is looking a bit more solid than what I think we all thought it was going to be. They seem to be looking decent. I don't think they're going to win it, but I think they're definitely going to be competitive in the playoffs. So, yeah, I think that against this Colts defense that is struggling and the offense that isn't doing much better either, I think that the Bills -4 is probably quite a nice one.
I think that's why winning this game is important for them, because getting one of those top seeds is really important. Playing home games for the Bills, I think on any given day, Josh Allen can beat anyone. So I think you say they can't win it. I think they got a good chance. We said, oh, they lost Diggs. Oh, their wide receiver core isn't good enough. But like I said, they're bringing Cooper, and Coleman seems to be getting better and better every week. I think they've got a better wide receiving core this year than they did have last year and currently. So I think they could go all the way. I was hot on them before the season started anyway. So maybe that's my bias of wanting that to come true. My next game I've got is it's the later game. It's the Detroit Lions. I've taken them at -3.5. Got that victory last week against the Green Bay Packers. First outdoor game, and they thought that might be a struggle for them, but they managed to put the critics to bed and get that done. Going up against a Houston team that has just got plethora of injuries across the board. I think Will Anderson got injured as well, didn't he? So no wide receivers, injuries on defense. We're seeing Stroud struggle a little bit because of this. And we just see Lions going from strength to strength and almost practicing things during games that they're going to go, let's give it a go now because we're going to use it later on in the playoffs. So I can see that the Lions winning this comfortably again. I don't think this is as tough an opponent as it's had over the last couple of weeks. So I think they can get the win against the Texans by more than 3.5.
Yeah, I'm surprised at the number. I'm surprised it's only 3.5. I'm more than happy to take the line on the line here. As you said, the Texans have been depleted by injuries. I don't think Nico Collins is going to be back. I know they've opened up the window for him to return, but I think this will be a week too early. And obviously, Stephon Diggs has gone down as well. So you've got Tank Dell and not a lot else out there. And as you say, Will Anderson went and got injured on the defense side. Defense has been really, really good this season, and I think that it will probably continue to be because they do still have some strength there. But they are going up against a bit of a juggernaut here in the Lions, and I think it would be surprising if the Lions suddenly fell apart in this game. It's one of them things where you just feel like you can't really see it happening. Goff is now getting MVP hype, which, welcome to Adam's, theory of beginning of the season, but it's not everyone else to come on board. And I think they've got a lot of weapons on the offense. Defensively, they are still struggling. They can be beaten over the top. So that is something that they need to sort out. I'm not sure if they're going to be able to this season, to be honest. It feels like this is what they're going to be like. But they're going to outscore everyone. And they've got that mentality that they want to outscore everyone and just not only win, but destroy. That seems to be the mentality of the Lions. And I think that -3.5 is not going to be an issue.
Yeah, there's no taking the foot off the pedal, is there? They just keep going and going. They don't even take their starters out of games. They're still in games at the end when they don't need to be. Hopefully that doesn't come back to bite them, but they're just trying new things once they've got that lead and practicing different things they can try out. It's a good mentality to have, and it's something that Dan Campbell's installed in them, and he's working fantastically. So did you have Goff before the season started? Was that your nomination on the show? Did you say?
Yes. So when we did our predictions, I and Sky made us all buy these stupid whiteboards so that we could write them down on the show. For MVP, I did Jared Goff.
Well, I had to. I missed that.
I got laughed at. I did.
Well, I was on there, but I had to just mail mine in and get Fred to read mine out for me. I had the guy that I had for MVP is putting up MVP numbers. It's just his team's terrible. I thought Joe Burrow might be able to do the season.
Yeah.
Mainly because I think I had Jamar Chase as my offensive player of the year as well. Which again, putting up the numbers, but hey ho. We'll move on to my next game. I'll leave that last game of what I've put in, but I've gone for the LA Chargers. I know it's a big line. I know I don't usually take things that are over the touchdown, but -7.5. I know you've said in previously Chargers are a team that are going to win games, but they're not going to score big. I feel like they're proving that wrong now, and they're starting to become a team that can put points upon you. Their defense is so strong. They're the number one scoring defense. I think you spoke on Tuesday about how well Minter's doing there and the stats that he's putting in on that defensive side. But I think Herbert's full fitness. I think McConkey, Quinton Johnson, doing fantastic things. J.K. Dobbins. I think they're going to now start to push on, and you're going to see them starting to score big on teams now. So I'm going to take it against the Titans, who have got Will Levis back in at quarterback, I believe. So that's worth another couple of pick sixes, I think, on top of that. And again, another team that has, during the free agency, just let people go. So I think Chargers stamp their authority now and push on, and you see them start to score big. So I don't mind the 7.5 with the Chargers in this one.
Yeah, so I agree with you in the fact that I normally go against it. It is a lot. It is over the touchdown, and that is a little bit scary to deal with. However, in this particular circumstance, I think it is worth going for because the Chargers' defense is very, very good, and there isn't any particular big names in the secondary. But it's the secondary is what's doing it. And these guys are just, they're just not giving up any space. You can't pass on them. And that's the reason why this is happening. It's almost like they sack the quarterback by the secondary, if that makes sense. It's a really weird sort of logic where it's like, they just stop them from being able to do anything. And so therefore the quarterback has loads of time to throw, but he's got no one to throw it to. And eventually Joey Bosa, and then they'll sack him. And that's basically what they're doing. That's how they're winning it. And it's crazy when you think of how quickly that has changed with, to be honest, pretty much the same players that were there. And it's just a different way of playing, and it's obviously working for them. The Titans defensively are a pretty decent side. They're not too bad when it comes to it, but offensively they just haven't got anything, and that's where the problem's going to be. So yeah, I agree with you. I think the Chargers at -7.5 is certainly one that you can bet on and has a good chance of coming in. Not only is it that the defense is likely to score, they've got a decent running back in J.K. Dobbins, who seems to be managing to stay fit this year. And I think that's always been the problem, hasn't it? That he's really struggled with that. So that's good. I think Lab McConkey is starting to get involved a lot more. He the last couple of games, I've noticed that he's been involved more. They still have other threats. They're not particularly amazing, but it doesn't matter because it's more about the system than anything else that seems to be working there. And as you say, you can see Will Levis throwing a couple of pick sixes, and that Chargers defense will score points on you. And so if defense is scoring points, you don't need to do as much. And I think that's probably how they'll win it. And so yeah, -7.5. I'm pretty happy to be going with that.
Yeah, it's funny that you bring up the secondary when you talk about the Chargers at the minute, because I reiterated this when they made the hire and when they brought Jesse Minter in. I said, Harbaugh had a problem at Michigan where he kept getting beat by Ohio because they had such fast and speedy wide receivers, and he just kept getting beat by them. And he says, I've had enough of this. Phoned his brother. His brother sent in Mike McDonald, who he said, I want to start playing the Ravens style with that secondary being really strong. He did that. He went back to the NFL, and then they brought in Jesse Minter, who was with the Ravens as well, and said, install it again. And that's how they dominated the college football, through that defense and that secondary. And then he's just brought that team to the NFL. And I think I saw a stat that they were ranked on defense, scoring defense over the last 5 years. I think they were like 23rd, 24th, and lower. And then this year they're first. It's his first year there. They're currently first. So it's a big turnaround, considering there's not been that many names change on that defense from what they had over the last few years. So yeah, absolutely brilliant stuff there. My last one, Adam, I've kept you in a bit of suspense because I nearly changed it today. This is the line that's changed the most. The Minnesota Vikings on Thursday were at -4.5. Then they jumped up this morning after the news. But I say the news came out yesterday. It's been all week that they've said that Trevor Lawrence is probably trending in the way that he's not going to play. And then it took for them to, I think I saw something today to say again, he's trending towards not playing. I thought he's already been named that he's not playing, hasn't he? But it jumped up from that -4.5 all the way up to -7. And I was like, I don't like the -7. Should I be looking at the 49ers Bucks game? That's 6.5. I think 49ers are going to really be strong. But it's come back down to 6.5 now. And I took it as 7 because it was in my head. I was like, look, I've had it. I put it in my accumulator. If I take it out and put something else in and it still comes in, I'll be really gutted that I changed my bet and it didn't come in. And I think in terms of quarterback play, is there much difference between Mac Jones and Trevor Lawrence? I don't know. We've not seen much of maybe new and improved Mac Jones. Now he's at the Jags, feeling a bit happier that he's not getting bashed every week. But the Vikings, I think, are just going to be so much better on offense than them. Their defense, again, plays well. I was worried about their offensive line, but Cam Robinson has slotted in fairly nicely onto that left tackle position. So I think Vikings still cover, especially the 6.5, and get the win here to keep the streak alive for the FTAG5.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think -6.5. The fact that it's come in to -6.5, as you said, it was -7. I think -6.5 is quite appealing now for that, and I think that you've got a good chance of that happening. I'm very happy to take that, and yeah, I think that the Jags are in a bit of trouble here, to be honest, for the rest of this season. I think that it doesn't matter if Lawrence is there or not. I think Lawrence being there means that they've got more of an offense, but I think defensively they're in a bit of trouble. You can pass on this team. You can pass on the Vikings as well, actually, but I just think I don't see Mac Jones. I don't see Mac Jones doing it and really making much of a difference in his first game for quite a long time. And yeah, I just think that Sam Darnold doesn't have a great reputation. He's continued to be like that. So the big just don't see it changing. Yeah, one of the defenses against them had another call for them, and so I think Jefferson's just going to really.
I'm not sure whether we've lost you, Adam. I'm not sure whether we have, or it's just me, or are you back? I lost you a little bit there.
It's here, don't worry. Yeah, I like I said, I just think Jefferson will carve them up, and that they'll get through quite easily.
Yeah, I'm glad it's coming. That obviously indicates that people thought the line was too big at -7 and just started hammering bets on the Jags. Maybe it's 6.5. Maybe it's one to keep an eye on till Sunday morning, see if because it might come in a bit more if people are really betting on the Jags on this one, thinking Mac Jones isn't much different to Trevor Lawrence. It might get back into that, maybe down to 5.5. Maybe it might come down a little bit more. Can't see it getting all the way back down to the 4.5, but one to keep an eye on of it coming down again, because it is indicating that people are now betting on the Jags rather than the Vikings. Adam, I know you've agreed with all of my ones this week. You know, are you feeling all right, or is the winter bug?
I think it's the first. This is the first time this has happened. But you were saying, weren't you, about some of these lines, and there are some big lines, great, and you do sort of think that kind of better ones. So yeah, I wasn't against them.
If there was something to change, obviously that Chargers one's a big line. If that puts people off, that Minnesota one jumping up so much. If you were to put some different games in there or give some people some alternatives, where would you be looking at for the other ones?
So I think his option offense easily. I think I wouldn't be desperately going for it because it's a big line, but I do think it's one that you can get. I wouldn't be going anywhere near the Bears anymore. I think we can safely say we've all had enough of the Bears, so that's pretty horrific. I do like the Commanders at -1.5 because it's within the field goal. Although I think the Steelers are going to be a tough defense for them to get past, because the Commanders can sort of win in both the running game and the passing game. I think they've got a decent chance here of doing something. And we've seen that Steelers run defense is not quite as good as what it has been in the last few years. So it is something that they can do a little bit more on this year. So yeah, the Commanders at -2.5. The rest of it, I wasn't really that excited for. Cardinals Jets is a short line, so if you've got a big opinion on it, it's only 1.5. So that's one that if you really feel particular about one side, it's probably worth looking at. I must admit, I don't really feel anything about either side on that one. It could go either way, and I'm not that keen. But I know you were talking about the 49ers at -6.5, and it's a bit of a scary line for me because I know that Christian McCaffrey's back, so in theory they should be better. But the Bucs have been keeping in games, and especially the way they played against Kansas City, that's where it's a little bit like not sure how that's going to go. So yeah.
Well, there's one thing I do know. You briefly touched on the Commanders game. I'll live by this. I'll live by my Chiefs rule.
You're going for
the
Steelers underdog rule.
When he's an underdog, that's when he's the most dangerous. I think he's got a 61% win rate when he's the underdog and covering the spread. And it's only
so he loses some then.
It's only but it's worth putting your money on at that rate. And also, it's really interesting to stay as well. The Jets-Cardinals game, when I looked at this the other day, the Cardinals were the favourites. Cardinals were favourites in this one. I think it was 2.5 as well. I think Jets were 2.5 underdogs. And they're now the 1.5 favourites. So that's been hammered with a bit of money as well, I think. And I think that's Cardinals really struggle to get pressure on quarterbacks, and Aaron Rodgers with no pressure is going to have a field day throwing to all of his receivers now that look like, any one of them could go off on one. And Breece Hall as well. So I think that's, if you got that early and got Jets as an underdog, you've really won on that one. But yeah, as you said, there's a lot of spreads with a lot of teams that I'm not confident in. I also like, the Rams as well.
Yeah.
-1 against the Dolphins. We saw how good the Rams were last week. And I think they're just going to get better and better. They're going to have Puka back, obviously, if he doesn't punch anyone again. So full strength on wide receiver. Jared Verse looks absolutely insane. I'm glad that I called that he'd be the best edge rusher because he looks like an absolute beast. So I think as well, I think they opened as the underdogs and are now the favourites. So I think you could move that line. You can click them and go into them. I could think you can move that line up to 2.5 and take them winning by the field goal and get a little bit more money on that one. But yeah, they're the ones I like. Adam, what touchdown score has he got for us?
Yeah, so for the guys that are over 2-1 this week, or they were anyway yesterday, who knows? It's probably all changed, but we'll have a look anyway. So the first game that we're looking at is the Colts against the Bills. We've got two guys in that. For the Bills side, 10. I think pretty much to one. That was kind of the issue for him. For the rest of them, because to be honest, I think they've all got a good chance of scoring in this one. But yeah, Dalton Kincaid at 21-10, going up against Colts defense 26th when it comes to giving up passing yards. And Kincaid is one of the favourite targets, isn't he? And so I think he's going to be a good red zone target. So yeah, really like Kincaid for this one. On the other side of the ball is Josh Downs at 9-4. The Bills are 16th when it comes to giving up passing yards. So they're not great, but they're not awful. Downs has had 3 touchdowns this year. Coincidentally, 2 of the 3 of them have come with Joe Flacco as quarterback. And I think that you're going to see a bit more of a sort of, they're going to get that connection together. And I think Downs is more likely actually in this one personally. So yeah, I like Downs at 9-4. So you got 2 in that one. If you move to the Vikings Jags game, as you were saying earlier, we've taken the Vikings at -6.5. One go here, TJ Hawkinson. It's only his 2nd game back, but the Jags comes to get the pass, but they're also against tight end as well. So at 21-10, I think that TJ Hawkinson is definitely worth looking at. Moving on to the Bears against the Patriots. We've got a couple of Bears receivers here. It's difficult because obviously the way they've been the last couple of weeks, it's just not been great with Shane Waldron and the Bears in general. And I think that people will be fine come the end of the season. But you've got a couple of guys here who I think are over the 2-1 shot that look all right. Keenan Allen seems to be getting involved quite a lot. So at 21-10, I think he's worth looking at. And then Rome Odunze at 11-4. It feels very much that Odunze is the preferred target for Caleb Williams now. So at 11-4, I like the look of him a little bit more than Allen, but Allen is seeing targets as well. Patriots are 22nd when it comes to giving up passing yards. So I do think there's an opportunity here for basically for the Bears to actually kind of get some of this sorted out compared to what they've had in the last few weeks. Having said that, they had the opportunity last week against the Cardinals and they blew that as well. So we'll have to wait and see. But I like them too. And then finally, biggest price of the lot. And actually, I had included him in my treble until I heard the horrific news that Will Levis was playing in the Titans-Chargers game. Nick Westbrook-Akine, who is currently 4-4 when it comes to scoring touchdowns. He was 9-2. I think he's 5-1 now. So he's a big price. Yes, he's going up against tougher opposition. If you look at who he's played, the last 4 games, they haven't played anyone that have been particularly fantastic. And obviously, as we were saying, this Chargers secondary is very, very good. But given the fact that he's 5-1 and he scored 4 touchdowns in the last 4 games, it feels like he deserves a little bit of a shout out, if nothing else.
Yeah, definitely. 5-1, it's worth having some money on its own, isn't it? The bets like that are always worth a little dabble on.
Yeah.
Well, we're on to our trebles. For my early treble, I've gone for Kyle Pitts to start off with at 7-5. Obviously, we've mentioned that London might not be playing or is trending definitely in that light. I think the next target, although Mooney's playing really, really well, I think Pitts is going to be more involved in this game and definitely got a chance at getting a touchdown against the Saints. I've also gone for DeAndre Hopkins. We saw him get in the end zone twice last week. I think he does it again, and the odds are fantastic on him as well. Looking like I think Juju Smith-Schuster is definitely out this week again. I know they were trending in the way that he might be playing, but he is out, I think. So at 2-1, DeAndre Hopkins, I thought that's a bit of a no-brainer. Looked like it went to him more than it did Kelsey when it got to that red zone area, which I was quite surprised at. So I'm happy to take him at 2-1 against the Broncos. And then finally, I put in George Kittle at 7-5 against the Buccaneers. I expect the 49ers to score. So I think he's got a good chance of all of them getting in, and he might be the go-to at 7-5. So all in all is 18.8-1.
Where did you do the bet on Bet365?
Yeah.
Okay,
Why?
I'll have to have a look at that. Maybe I've put the wrong odds down, possibly here. So my first guy is DeAndre Hopkins at 2-1. I think it's Rashee Rice, isn't it?
Yeah.
Of last year. That's what we're dealing with.
I said that to you when they signed him. I said, I hope they're going to play him in the Rashee Rice role. And it looks like they are. So, yeah.
So, yeah, I like him. George Kittle for the 49ers. I think he'll have a good game. He seems to be doing pretty well. I'm not really that worried about Christian McCaffrey coming back. I think that if we remember rightly, what's always happened is that as long as one of them's out injured, all the others normally do all right. And I think that by having Ayuk out for the season, I think you're going to find that they're all probably going to do okay. So I'm quite happy with George Kittle. And then I've gone for not Kyle Pitts, but Darnell Mooney at 7-5. So same reasons. I think that I think that they're just going to win. I think they're the better team. They're going to. Cousins is once he gets going, I think he'll be really good, which is what he's doing. And yeah, I just think that Mooney's getting targets, and it kind of makes sense for him. So I got it at 16.28-1, but I'll have a look and see what it comes out to now.
Isn't it? Pitts is 7-4, and you've got Mooney at 7-5.
Mooney 7-5. That's the difference. So yeah, mine's 16.28-1.
Of all the games you can pick, it is quite odd that one we've got two of the same people, and then the next one is from the same game.
I will admit I nearly went for Roma Dunze. That was the one I was like, do I put him in or not? But at the same time, it just how the Bears have been scares you, and so I went against that.
I think I was looking at the Bills game if I was going to put anybody different in, but yeah, there's fingers crossed for us. If Hopkins and Kittle both come in early and we're both sitting there waiting on that one game, one of us might be upset. Yeah. My late game, Adam, I have gone for.
I think we might do it again here.
Well, yeah. There's how many games was there to pick from? 3.
3.
Yeah. Tough, and my odds aren't fantastic either. So that's probably why. So my first one, I've got him at decent odds. He's probably boosting them up a bit. But I've gone with Lad McConkey at 2-1. I'm guessing you've probably got him because he wasn't on your 2-1 or bigger bet. Again, I think Chargers are going to score big in this game. He seems to be the go-to guy. I wouldn't mind if you put McConkey or Quentin Johnson in this one. I think they both have a chance of scoring. But McConkey seems to be the first one I'd go for in that duo at the moment. My next one I've gone for is Garrett Wilson at 11-8. I'm not sure why his odds are so good for us to go for. We saw what he did last week. I think there's going to be more of that. He's, just chuck it up and he'll catch it no matter where it is. It's fine. And I think Aaron Rodgers is getting more and more confidence with him. And I just think those odds, you can't pass them up. And then my final one is Devonta Smith at 13-10. We saw him getting involved a bit more. Struggled with the odds in this game. I think AJ Brown's healthy for this one. I think his odds were really short. So I was like, who's going to score next? So I've gone with Smith. I've lost you, Adam.
I've got Garrett Wilson at 11-8. I was surprised, and I think the reason behind it is because Devontae Adams is there now, and I think there's still this. No, but I think the way the bookies are looking at it is that the narrative is that Rodgers will go to Adams first, and so therefore will have less chance, and so he's a slightly bigger price. I think that's the theory. So, but I've gone for Garrett Wilson at 11-8 as well. I didn't go Devon Smith. I went AJ Brown at 13-10, same price. I just think that Brown will. I don't know. He's the main target when when it comes to the wide receiver thing.
Away for him because the odds were shorter on him. No, they're now currently the same. Okay.
Yeah. Last night they were
probably
both
the one to go for.
Yeah, so I've done that. And then, as I said, I was going to go Nick Westbrook-Akine until Will Levis reared his ugly head and decided to turn up again. So I've gone for Quentin Johnson at 11-4 for pretty much all the same reasons you said for Lad McConkey. So it was difficult, this last one. I must admit, I'm not. It comes out as 19.48 to 1 for Johnson, Wilson, and Brown, but I'm not overly sold on this as a treble. It was more that I had to come up with 3 for these 3 games. I know it's because of the game in Germany, so you've got 1 game left. Mm-hmm. But I did feel, could you not have had 4 in the back and had 6 at the early games and change it a little bit? I don't, because
I suppose we could have let you throw in the Lions Texans game and have people on the edge of their seats wait until the morning to see if they got it.
Couldn't the Commanders Steelers game have been in the evening? Because a lot of this is due to time, isn't it?
No, because that's at the Commanders, so you wouldn't want a late game on the East Coast, would you? So you'd want.
Well, you wouldn't.
No, the time would be. They'd finish really, really late, wouldn't they?
No, it's in Washington.
Yeah, which is like East Coast. It's in Washington, as in Washington DC, Washington, not Seattle, Washington.
Oh, okay.
Come on, Adam, you knew that.
Yeah, geography was never a strength.
You'd probably be looking at the Chiefs game, maybe being a bit later.
Yeah, the Chiefs game. Chiefs are on late a lot, aren't they?
Yeah.
But yeah, I just kind of felt like you could have thrown another one in.
I agree. It doesn't make for a great red zone either when there's only 3 games, is it? So,
no, this is the thing. So it seemed a bit of a shame that it was only 3. And like I say, it's probably largely due to the international game. But there you go.
Well, that's all we've got time for. We're actually on time. We've not done too bad this week. So, but that's all we've got time
we agreed with
Yeah. Agreed with all of the FTAG5 and then virtually agreed on all the trebles as well. So
yeah.
Very simple.
You're not going to win this week.
That's all. Yeah, that's all we've got time for. Fingers crossed we can get another winner. But till then, keep it with the franchise tag and see you again very soon.